What's up, everybody? It's your boy Pano here with our boy Gianni, newly married, might I add. What a beautiful wedding. Wow, throw that up. Throw it up.
Some hardware for you.
Beautiful wedding in Santorini. I was there in the flesh. I actually got a shout out from your brother's speech too, as like the guy on the very end of the table. Everyone was like, "And who are you again?" Like people that you've been like around your whole life. We met a few years ago, obviously, and at either this episode or another episode, we'll get into that story too because it's a funny one as well.
Yes.
But man, how you feeling? You're back in the States now,
and I'm back in the States, feeling good.
Newlywed. Does it feel different? Do you feel different?
Not yet. We've lived together, so nothing really feels different because the one thing I'm not sure about is how long the process takes to get it signed and sealed in Greece and then brought back over to the States. So we're in this weird limbo area where I don't know if we're actually legally recognized in the United States yet, but they said like 40 days it'll be good to go.
Okay.
Everything else is good. Happy to be back. And happy to be, back in this very vital international break that I think every Greek fan had circled on their calendar since the draw. So it is crunch time now, and I'm equal parts nervous and excited for tomorrow.
Man, they broke my heart. I mean, I was at the game. I flew in for your wedding a week early. Just to see these boys. I was like, look, I've missed so many like classic games just because work or life got in the way. I was like, I have a little bit of a window before I start officially like my new job. And like, let's roll the dice and send it. I flew in on a Sunday, landed on a Monday, got settled in, quickly showered, changed, made it to, so I was staying, believe it or not, I was staying in this apartment called, it was like a loft that you could rent out for like short term, obviously.
Yeah.
And it was in the middle of Monastiraki, like that like area, but it was on a street that I'd never seen or heard of. It's actually kind of like close to the TGI Fridays there, which what is that doing there? Get that out of my face. That's not what I want to see when I'm in the Patrida. Get out of here. So anyway, the street was called Skouze, and I'm like, I've been to Athens, I've been to Monastiraki and the Kedro like more times than I care to admit. And it was just like, you're like this address is, you're gonna kidnap me. Like this basically what I was like, I was thinking for a little bit, but I remember getting into the taxi at the airport, going there, and the driver even was like, I've like never heard of this in my life, dude. Like, where are you even going? But like it showed up on the map. We went, I was in the middle of everything. And I say that because my trip, once I got settled in, it was a series of quickly showering, hastily sending some emails for work. And then I was off from the Monastiraki train station, the metro. I took it all the way to Karaiskaki, took it to, I forget the stop. I'm not.
You get a nap in it all? You just got landed and went right to work?
No nap. We powered straight through as I always do. Just, coffee and vibes.
Running on fumes.
Got a cheeky little Freddo Espresso Metrio as always. And I was off to the races.
Well, I'm glad you went though, because we talked so many times about let's go to Wembley, let's go to the England game, and we didn't end up going. And wow, we missed out. We should have went. So it's one of those times you decide, let's do it. I would have went if I wasn't getting married, and my now wife did not want to go a couple days early, so I would have been there with you. Now hindsight, I'm glad I didn't go, but
she did you a favor, man. Yeah. She did you a favor. Man, I was so jet lagged and stressed. I had a couple deals at work that were just like grinding my nuts, dude. And the atmosphere and the build up to the stadium, like I was wearing like all of my colors and stuff on the train, just chatting with randos that were just coming up to me, like excited about the game as well, even though they're more like Gavri and whatnot, club focused, because that's where the game was in Karaiskaki, in Piraeus. So man, it was just, you could feel like people were excited. Like the Ethniki, Karaiskaki was full, loud in the beginning, not super loud, not the loudest I've ever been in like a Greek stadium, but you could just feel this like balloon of helium slowly letting out as soon as kickoff happened. And, I kind of in real time was like, these boys look like the Monstars like stole their talent. Like, this is how bad it is. I've never seen such a but like in a long time, and especially under these circumstances, it seemed like unfathomable to see just the amount of unforced errors, sloppy play, and kind of what you had said online too, just the maturity. There was this lack of maturity that we had seen before against England as well. And like, that was kind of a sobering night, not because of the loss 3-0, but just a reminder of like, oh, we have still a lot of work to do.
I think it was coming back down to earth, right? After a really, really good win against Scotland on the road to get promoted to League A. And then the friendlies where we're scoring 4 goals in back-to-back games, and the guys are looking good in their club form. So everything is just firing on all cylinders. But, you're right. It's important to remind ourselves, like, we still have work to do. We did lose, 3-0 at home to England, which was humbling in a way, but not in the same way because it wasn't qualifiers for the World Cup. And we did lose at home to Scotland, and we fixed that, a few days later. But this one felt a little bit different because of the nature of a very, very short World Cup qualifying campaign.
Yeah, and just this team can switch on and switch off, but they don't have really control of when they pull that switch, which is kind of like the catch-22 with them. It's like on their day, they're fantastic. But even with the Scotland game, I mean, we played poorly at home, as the away teams tend to sit back a little bit more and invite pressure and play a little bit more of away day tactics. And of course, when we're at Hampton Park, they open it up a little bit more. They get behind the fans and the energy, and we ended up, really exposing them in behind with our wing play and just had like a field day on them. So, some of it was situational as well, which is, I think, part of the sobering nature of it, where it's like, we're still a team, regardless of what era, post 2004, regardless of which chapter, still a team that, are not going to go up against the best in the midfield too. I think we really need to kind of shift away from this 4-2-3-1 against top tier teams, and Denmark are a top tier team. We got a little bit ahead of ourselves, and we definitely paid the price for it. Not because Denmark was that much better. They were just better on the day by not shooting themselves in the foot 35 times like we did.
Yeah. They took advantage of those chances too.
Yeah, they were professional enough to take advantage of the plethora of chances we gave them, and we deserve to get battered like that. We were lucky to not lose by more. So Lakis had a bunch of saves. We'll get into the goalkeeper situation. I think we're both on the same page, and Olympiacos fans are not going to be happy.
We'll get into it with some I've seen might be.
Yeah, but like just like the quick fire stats here. I mean, 1 shot on target for Greece, 4 on total shots the whole game. Denmark had 15 on target, 0.17 XG. Yeah. And we had 45% possession. So it wasn't like we had 10% of the ball. We're really struggling to make anything happen. We had a fair share of the ball, and similar passing numbers as well in terms of amount of passes, and similar completion percentages too. But 0.17 XG to 1.94 for Denmark, man. I mean, that is, Damsgaard was showing that on his day, he's a top talent in the world, and Christensen was fantastic in the back, a total rock. Højbjerg as well, really was pulling some strings. I mean, when we, pissed the ball away as many times as we did, they definitely were dangerous and took advantage of it, and were able to find the back of the net for it. Yeah. I mean,
it was a professional performance by the Danes. Yeah. You have to give it to them. I wouldn't say they did anything like their goals were well taken, especially the first 2 goals were really, really well taken.
The Damsgaard first one, especially.
On another day, maybe those don't go in, and we say, okay, wow, we're really lucky we got away with it. But at the same time, I had just tweeted before the Damsgaard goal, if Zafiris gives the ball away one more time, we're going to eat it. And it wasn't him, because it was he actually gave the ball away the most, and I'm going to give him a pass because it's just a bad game. It was Kurbelis who ended up giving it away for the first goal, who I thought up until that point had been okay. But then afterwards, it was just between the two of them. I saw Zolis was giving up the ball all the time. It was just a string of every single person in the midfield. Costa Delias was giving it up.
Very disjointed.
The writing was on the wall at that point.
Oh, the first 30 minutes, I even tweeted, and they scored a minute later. But it was we're just pissing about right now. This isn't even we're lucky to be 0-0. Yeah. But yeah, no, back to kind of what I was saying a second ago. I mean, that's where it really dawned on me, where it's the patterns of not only just losing by a 3-0 margin. Obviously, that's not the reason why there's similarities. Tactically, the mentality and the maturity of the team was exposed on a big stage, sold out crowd, bigger expectations. So, all of that, that's the continuity that fans are kind of scratching their heads at, being I thought we were a little bit past this. But, that's also the piece, is against a top team like a Denmark or whoever, shifting a little bit more to a 4-3-3 is like really the big change that I'd like to see. Get one more body in the midfield to protect the back line, add a little bit of stability to it in terms of fighting off the game of numbers and whatnot. And then, of course, you can have like a 6 or an 8 drift forward, where I would say in the midfield 3, it's like slightly V-shaped, where the 6 and 8 are a little bit higher than the CDM. You have Musakiti on the left, a must start, by the way, for Scotland especially. A must start, and should have been. And I think this is a learning lesson, and where Jovanovic will get tested to see what adjustments will he make. But a midfield 3 with Zafiri as like the holding center defensive mid, and then Costadella or a Bacaseta or whoever as the 8 that can then drift forward, so that temporarily within when it makes sense contextually in the match to drift forward, he does, and then we can embody a 4-2-3-1, but then we shift immediately back into a steady 4-3-3 against the top team. That's like a very like easy switch from like a logistics standpoint or like game model standpoint, where it's not really disruptive to the overall sort of like direction that Ivan is trying to get the team to go, Jovanovic. But it gives us a little bit more stability where we were really exposed. And if we only have 2 back there and they're both spitting the ball away to the defense, a top team, all they need is one chance. We gave Denmark 10. So it's really, really critical that we get that right in the midfield. We still are going to be outmatched from a talent standpoint with whichever top team we play. And that was also clear against Denmark. So I think when we were chatting in September, I'll throw it back to you now with this, when we were speaking in September, it was like, this is a real test for the team and the players. Like, where are they at? How they match up? We showed that, maturity wise, they didn't match up. Room for growth there. Need to see more in this window. Otherwise, I'm going to get real nervous about what our prospects are with this team. But while September was a test for them as players and as a team, October is a test for Jovanovic. Big time, because you have some data points now. You have a couple different campaigns, you have similar opponents, similar scenarios, and you have similar results. What are you going to do now to tweak it is my question for Jovanovic. If we don't get a minimum 4 points this window, his seat's going to start to get real warm, and I won't be against it, because this is a chance to really make some fine tuning to your roster, to your 11, your Endecada. And, he's under the microscope this window. And I think from your nodding as well, you kind of agree. So, I mean, how are you feeling about all of that?
He will be. You're right about that. There's a couple things. I mean, this window is all going to be about how not only he, but the players reacts, because they definitely need to have some fire in the belly after what happened to Denmark. We started off so well against Belarus, which I think we expected, right? We played really well. And I remember saying on a space on Twitter, this really might, it was after the Belarus game, I hope this doesn't remind me of the window of the Euro playoffs where we battered Kazakhstan 5-0 and went into that game against Georgia on a high and played just a completely different game against Georgia. And I hate to say, like, that came true in a way, because we battered Belarus, and the second game, the big game against Denmark, we didn't show up in a lot of ways. And that was the big turning point for why Poyet got the boot, right? That was the turning point for him. So hoping Jovanovic can look at that and say, okay, we have to react. This is a Scotland team we know very well. We've beaten them in their own backyard. We thumped them in their own backyard, but this is a little bit different. They have a few more players who are going to be on the roster who were injured than that time. This is a World Cup playoff. I'm not sure how seriously they did take the Nations League. I think they did take it pretty seriously for the most part.
No, they definitely did. Definitely did. But I mean, it is a new look. It's not going to, it's not going to be a carbon copy of the first match. It will be a little bit cagier. Some of the goals in that first match were also situational as well. I mean, we were up 3-0 under 47 minutes. So at least inside the first minute of the second half scores, which totally kind of changes the landscape of the game. So absolutely, Scotland are familiar with us as well. I mean, that was Caretzas' coming out party. That that stellar performance, and Costadella played well as well.
And Musakitis played well that game. So I agree with you. He's a must start. Hey, give me 5 seconds, all right?
Yes, the chicken's ready, huh?
The chicken's ready, yeah.
He gave me fair warning, so he's not on the chopping block. He was very upfront about, at some point in the episode, chicken would be, the priority.
And we're good.
Good. That was quick. Look at that. Look at that. I mean, I need to see the chicken. You gotta bring the chicken in here. I need to see what you're chefing up. I'm putting my boy on the spot because I have faith that it'll be a good looking, well-seasoned chicken. A well-seasoned. I'm thinking patates to forno me kotopoulo, but we'll see.
It's actually a teriyaki style chicken.
Okay.
So
okay.
We got some squash, carrots, and onion in there, and we got rice in the rice cooker right now. So it smells fantastic.
All right, you passed. I mean, man, I was nervous for a second. I had faith, but I was like, man, I did put him on the spot. If this looked like, I can't be. I'll get in trouble. I'm about to get in trouble.
No, it smells great. That's all.
Yeah. Hey, I'll tell you, like, spiritually, you can smell it from here. It looked good.
Let me pass
the test.
Let me put it on the
maybe a little dry, but we'll see.
All right. Back to more pressing matters.
Oh, you didn't even hear me. Love that. Great. Yeah. So definitely a different match overall. And I like we were saying, I think that shift from a 4-2-3-1 to a 4-3-3, being a little bit smarter with who plays in that midfield will kind of like speak and bleed right into kind of that Denmark match with, they're going to be opened up a little bit more since they're at home, but it could be a situation where it's like, we can kind of just sit neutral because these boys can't unlock us as they did when we were on the road. And they might just do that. And I wouldn't put it against them. I'll hold it against them if they did do it.
And Jovanovic has been really good about getting us ready for these big games on the road. I mean, a year ago, tomorrow is when we beat England, I think. So that was in Wembley. Obviously, we're coming up on the year anniversary of George Baldock as well. I saw the players were talking about that in their press conferences. So that's weighing on their mind, of course. And you obviously want to make sure that you focus on what's important. But they're gonna put their best foot out there for him, of course. But I think the big thing with Jovanovic going into that 4-3-3, it's big against Denmark, right? We can almost do what we did in the Nations League against Scotland because it worked so well. And I'd be curious to see if he's going to change that, if he's going to throw out the exact same lineup, because there's a good chance he does that because of how they reacted after the 1-0 loss, with the hunger to go there and then take the game to the Scots. We just came off a loss. We need to win this game. So I could see him doing the exact same thing, maybe throwing Bakasetas in there instead of someone else. But that 4-3-3, that's where I see Bakasetas coming in pivotal in that 8 role, because he can play that role really, really well, better than someone like Constantelias, who's more of like a left attacking mid who can cut in and doesn't really offer that much on the defensive end when we are having to transition back. So that's what I'm looking for in terms of the Denmark game. There's one thing you mentioned in terms of points that we need, 4 points. I think that's for first place. I would say we need 4 points for first place, with the 3 points being against Denmark. I'm not entirely convinced that we'd be out of the running for second place if we were to even tie Scotland, for example, and lose to Denmark, knowing that we could just go and beat them at home in the reverse leg and take care of Belarus, and we'd have that tiebreaker over them, or those points over them, assuming they, don't go and beat Denmark for the final standing. So I'm not entirely sure. Obviously 1 point would be catastrophic. I think if we can get 3, though, we're well within the running for second place. But 4 to 6, we're still looking at first potentially.
It's going to force us to really dig deep and see if we can put together an offensive. Really kind of do like some damage on the front end and really. You're chasing results now. So you have to be a little bit more have a sense of urgency about you and whatnot. And, that's definitely, people get like all, hot and bothered about mentioning Bacaseta, but from a tempo standpoint, from the ability to have an emotional finger on the pulse of the match and knowing kind of when to push, when to pull, when to tell someone what to do, when to kind of dictate the pace of play, and also kind of develop a rhythm and a tempo for the team. There's no one in the midfield that can do that other than him right now. And that's more of a reflection of our quality in the midfield right now, more than anything else. I love Baka, and I really hope he gets to play at a major tournament. But, in that midfield 3, he is very valuable, and he's shown to be very valuable. Pick 100%. The coach, pick the campaign. He's been in that 4-3-3, in that 8 role that drifts up a little bit. And, as talented as Costadelia is, it was more of the same with like, that's the kind of like the repeating pattern that we've seen over campaigns, over, a few different windows where maturity in those big games really lets us down. So, it's he proved it against Scotland. But here's the thing: it's like that. If that's just a one-off, then it's going to be all for nothing. Like we need to see sustained continuity and high quality and consistency from our players, particularly in the midfield. And if we can't get that, go ahead.
Let me throw a question at you on that note, because I did watch the Olympiacos PAOK game over the weekend, and Konstantelis was a problem for Olympiacos. He is, I believe, the reason PAOK went on and came back and won that game and are in a much needed win for them. And I look conversely at Caretsas, who has not really been getting that much game time for Genk. And when he has been, the SOFA score rating, I haven't been watching the games, but his ratings are around 6, 6.2, 6.4. Not great, right? And I know he's coming off an illness. I don't know much about that. Is this an opportunity where you get Caretsas to maybe come in as a sub off the bench, and you have a Bakasetas and Konstantelias in the lineup at the same time, which we haven't seen yet? Because I think Bakasetas is a shoo-in for this game.
I think regarding to whether Caretsas starts or not, it'll be up to his discussions with his club and Jovanovic as well. Because if it's a matter of fitness and he needs to get back to fitness, then that will be kind of the approach where perhaps if he is unfit, like perhaps he doesn't start and like a Masura starts for Greece instead on that right wing. And then he can work his way into the match as kind of like a super sub. And then he'll be fresh enough for Denmark to maybe play full 75, starting as well. So definitely agree that you can be a little bit more strategic and, fresh legs off the bench for Caretsas if, it's halftime or 60 minutes gone and, Masuras puts in a good shift and does his job, then like a fresh Caretsas can come on, build some confidence. I really do like that. However, it's going to be up to, how fit he is. I mean, he just flew in today. It's Thursday. He flew into Scotland today. And I think we're in a spot where if it'll depend on what the reports say in the morning, but I assume that if he's flown in with a sense of urgency like this, he will probably start and we'll probably need him. We had that success against Scotland when he started. It was his first start, and his skill sets can really exploit that back line. So, now that I think about it a little bit more, I mean, for a chance for a young player to get his fitness back and build a little bit of confidence, this is a great opponent for him to do that. It's a good matchup that allows him to really play to his strengths. And they're good enough to be legitimate and have to respect and take legitimately. But, this is kind of like familiar territory, and it could be a chance to really get his feet wet for the season and kind of get up to speed with things. But either way, I do like the depth. I mean, we have definitely more than enough attacking depth to be dangerous and really pose Scotland problems, which ultimately I think will be the difference in this game. It's just if you look at the midfield, similar defense, I favor us a little bit. Goalkeeper, I favor us a little bit. And then our attack is way better. So for Scotland, I really do think the balance tips in our direction. I think we're hungry as well. And we're coming off of a low point on the way up. So I do think that we take care of business in Scotland, but it's going to be uglier than the first time around. Probably like 2-1 or 1-0. That's more or less what I'm seeing right now. Greece 1-1, whether they concede or not will kind of just depend on kind of how the match unravels. For Denmark, it's tough. I think if we can beat Scotland, have some positivity and walk away with a point, whether it's 0-0 or 1-1, I would take that right now. That's more or less my thoughts, but you can let me know as well.
I think you'd give yourself, in that scenario, you'd give yourself almost a lock. It's all in your hands for second place at that point. If you are able to beat Scotland, which I have optimism that we can. And maybe it's from the first, even regardless of that first 3-0 game, that second half in the first game in Athens, we took it to them. The first half was a little bit ugly. Second half, we took it to them. I believe we're a better team in Scotland, just top to bottom. So I do think when Greece is the better team, I expect Greece to win. Now, if you're able to beat Scotland, regardless of how you come away with that, and you're able to bounce back after the Denmark game, you know that you have some momentum. It gives you belief that, hey, if we can just get a result, if we can win in Denmark, first place it's in our hands. All you do is you go back home to Athens, you take care of Scotland and Belarus, which I know is easier said than done. First place is right there. It is still in Greece's hands. And the first step is this first domino in Hampden Park. If you are able to take care of business, that could turn into a whole bunch of different things. So I'm very optimistic for this window. Again, we could end up with 0 points here. But this is a team that has shown they can bounce back and they can handle adversity.
Yeah, it's the seesaw nature, and what goes down must come up in Greek footy and in physics. So, well, I think it's the reverse in physics, but you know what I mean. But yeah, it is. It better be a good window. I like that you're optimistic, and somehow you seem to be a little bit more optimistic these days than me. So, and I tend to be more on the optimistic side as well. But you know, I've when I say heartbreaking when talking about that Denmark match, it really did like a piece. Like I lost probably like 48 minutes of my life from like the pain of that. Like minutes of my life were shaved off. I would love 4 points. I think it's very possible. I think if we finish with 1 point against Scotland, that's where I'll be almost even more disappointed than losing to Scotland. Yes. So, but I just think they know how important that Scotland match is after like the drubbing against Denmark. So I think it's tight. I think we get it. And I think we ride that momentum to get 1 point in Copenhagen. And then whether Scotland does us a solid or Denmark does us a solid kind of like in those remaining games with them, and we do the business against Scotland at home in Athens, and we win against Belarus as well. You know, anything can happen. I do think playoffs is a minimum still for me, and obviously like chance of winning first. But after that Denmark game, I'm not convinced until I see it. I'm not going to hope it anymore. I'm not going to try speaking into existence anymore. It really needs to be like, prove it to me. Win me back. I'm a scorned girlfriend, Ethniki. Win me back. You forgot. You stood me up. You didn't buy me the flowers I wanted. One of them had dead petals. You know, I'm pissed. I don't know if I want to continue seeing you, Ethniki. Win me back. Take me on a nice movie and raunchy parking lot hookup, and maybe we get back together. I don't know.
If you stuck through this team during the last decade, I think you're going to stick with them.
I'm battered, bro. I'm so battered. I've had so many bad partners in my past. Like, you know, I don't know how much longer I can do it, Ethniki. You're going to have to win me back.
I think we've known that second place has always come down to the home and away versus Scotland, regardless of the other games versus Denmark and Belarus for the most part.
Have to do the job.
It's come down to those two games. So that's really, yeah. This is the first leg, and then the second leg's next month.
Yeah.
But so, obviously there's more to get, and that's where we get optimistic.
For sure. And you know, it's weird because, you know, if we win out, I think we still can mathematically dictate, our own destiny.
If we win out, we're first. It's guaranteed. Yeah.
So it's tight, but you know, I still have to remember we're still kind of like 1 foot, half of us in the driver's seat, half of us like reaching back to get someone in the back row. Like we're teetering right now. And like I was saying a second ago, it was a seesaw. It teetered one way. I need to see that seesaw teeter the other way and stay that way until November or whatever, because I can't deal with this like switching off, like Gen Z, like brain rot. Like, I mean, man, like the sense of urgency and the awareness and readiness for that moment from an emotional standpoint was shocking. But also,
do you like that all the games are within 2.5 months of each other for the most part? Like our entire qualifying campaign is right away.
It's better than 2 years from what it used to be.
Yeah.
You know, because you would finish, let's say like Euro 2012, you know, September, Euros were in July, they ended. September 2012, you get started, and then you finish qualifying for the World Cup like 6 or 9 months before. It's like, damn, like you were a completely different team 18 months ago. Yeah. So I'm with it. I'm fine with it, but it also keeps you honest. And this is a time where we need some honesty. We need some we need some of that. I can't do this hope anymore. I'm running out of hope, running out of hopium.
Don't. This team will always come back.
I'm always going to watch. I'm always rocking with them, but it's like, you guys show me something.
Well, this is why we brought on Jovanovic, right? And I know it's starting to, like, when you compare his tenure with Poyet, you're like, well, you know, Poyet didn't lose these home games as much as Jovanovic is losing, which is what I've seen on Twitter. And I take that with a grain of salt because the way we're playing is so much more promising. The way we're integrating these new generation who are very talented is so promising. You're bound to have these blips in the road when you play 17 and 18-year-old guys. So I take that with a grain of salt. But this window is the exact reason we brought on a guy like Ivan Jovanovic, because you need to go and get a result now, and he's shown that he can find a way to do that. At multiple clubs that he's been at.
Yep. No, it's showtime. Put up or shut up, Jova. I've been your biggest fan. Jova Bonito. I've been spreading the propaganda everywhere. I need to, I need to see some. The presses have been stopped. I told the propaganda people, halt the presses. We're gonna have to see how October goes. Show me something spooky, Ivan. So. But man, I will be excited once kickoff happens. I'm kind of just so like burnt out at work, but also just that September window left a little sour taste in my mouth. We'll see if we can bounce back. I'm hopeful. Like I said, 4 points I think is very doable, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, it's going to be a similar lineup. It's going to be Pavlidis up top. It's going to be Tzoli. It's going to be Karetsa if he's healthy, which I think he is per the latest reports. Zafiri, Bacaseta, and Musakiti or Costadelli are going to be in the midfield, and it's the same back line. Giannoulis being back is huge as well. I really, really like that. And from a Scotland standpoint, I really like that because it keeps the both sides of the pitch honest. That Giannoulis going forward with intercombinational passes with all of his PAOK boys there, with Tzoli, with Zafiri even.
And I've been keeping tabs on him, and he is back in the swing of things for Augsburg, so he's playing. And although Tsimikas is playing and playing well for Roma, I just think the way Giannoulis plays and links with those PAOK boys, like you mentioned, is a better fit for the national team. It's not even a slight on Tsimikas. He's a good player. He's a great player, but I just think
systems. It's a system.
Yeah,
it's a system kind of disjointedness for him. He's more of like a Scotland style, actually, in a lot of ways, with kind of his time in Liverpool, obviously. But loving life at Roma, I think the fans seem to love him. He seems to be contributing in Europe as well. And of course, we actually have to talk about Odysseas as well, man. What a revival of his career. I mean, thank God.
I didn't see this coming.
Thank God he left his Newcastle post and, got new life. Obviously, Matias Almeida being the coach for Sevilla now is like kind of just like a sliding doors moment as well. But man, I mean, the way they beat the snot out of Barcelona 4-1 and just how much the fans have just embraced him and loved him and his performances have been fantastic. He's really making a case where as good as Tsolakis was against Denmark, there is something to be said about the experience and the quality and the consistency of Odysseas and, at the high level that he's playing at. And this is where it's good for Tsolakis to stay at Olympiacos, to be able to get those consistent minutes and be kind of like brought slowly into kind of big boy football. However, there is something to be said about, Odysseas just beat Barcelona 4-1, and he's playing in La Liga at a very high level every week, and he's proving it. And after the window that we had, it's not as certain that Tsolakis is going to be the main starter. And, if Odysseas gets the nod, and if he plays fantastically, he might just maintain this spot through the rest of this campaign. So, and it would be a little bit hard done for Tsolakis, but that's the nature of the sport. A lot of Olympiacos fans may not agree with that. That's fine. I mean, you got to love your team and support your guys. I get it. But for me, really the reality on the ground level is this is a situation where as good as Tsolakis was, there are levels to this. And while he's talented and he's going to be a great player and he still is very much a part of the team, this window, and then depending on how this window goes, there is this window of opportunity for the SAS to regain his starting position. And, I would be okay with it. And it's kind of like a wait and see, let's see how hungry he is.
And I think Jovanovic is the kind of manager who's not just going to stick with one goalkeeper and just say, this is my keeper for my entire tenure. He's going to go with the hot hand. He's going to go with who he thinks is going to give him the best chance of winning. He shuffled. He put Vlachodimos in the first leg against Scotland, and he shuffled and put Tsolakis in the second leg. Not that Vlachodimos did anything wrong, but it was I think just, hey, it's time for a changing of the guards. He's not playing at Newcastle. That was a weird transfer. Kind of set him back a bit. I think if we look at our keeper who we ideally want in the next 2 to 3 years, right, it's probably not Vlachodimos, mainly due to age. Obviously, as a goalkeeper, you can go a little bit longer. We've all agreed it's Zoulakis or Mandas. For me, it's Mandas. I think he's a better goalkeeper long term. Just based on what I've seen at Lazio, based on what I've seen for a small stint in the Ethniki, he's the best goalkeeper of the bunch. However, this is what we said with Vlachodimos. When he wasn't playing at Newcastle, you don't deserve to start if you're not playing as a goalkeeper.
Absolutely.
For your club. At Lazio, Provedel is still starting over Mandas week in, week out. So I can't consider him yet. That's not to say he won't in the future. The reason I'm back on the Vlachodimos train is because he's revived his career. Who would have thought Almeida, was forced out of Ajax after a terrible season, and Vlachodimos, who left Newcastle after not even making the bench for an entire year, would be two of the main catalysts to help save Sevilla, who had just a terrible time of it last year. And now they're back beating Barcelona 4-1. Vlachodimos is the starting keeper. He's making save after save. He's winning Man of the Match awards. So I would actually put him back in the starting lineup for this game. And the big reason I do that, the different goalkeepers, the big reason I do that is because Zoulakis, what I've seen with him too many times, great shot stopper. People will allude to the kick save in the free kick versus Denmark. He's not the reason we lost. But what I've seen time and time again from him is coming out of the box and not getting the ball. He's coming way off his line, going into no man's land and not getting the ball. It happened against Denmark. Goal difference is a massive thing here when we're looking at first or second place with two other really good teams. That could hurt us at some point. I saw it over the weekend against PAOK. He came out, Yakumakis beat him to the ball. Unfortunately, hit the post. He didn't score. I've seen it again in the Europa League or last season, Conference League, whatever it was. He came out, got a red card. So it's just happened multiple times, and Olympiacos fans will admit to that online.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. There are times it's worked for him, but if you're going to come out as a keeper, you have to be 100% sure you're going to get the ball. And I think that's some of the maturity that he just needs to get to, where Vlachodimos wouldn't make that mistake yet.
Yeah, from a positioning standpoint and even distribution, not talking about accuracy, because of course, like Zoulaki can like ping you a punt like to midfield and you can take it down and whatnot. But selection, Odysseas definitely, where he doesn't show up on the stat sheet as much is having an understanding of kind of where we are in the match and the matchups that have been working and kind of what we need to start a new attack. His selection of who he distributes to based off of his options is something that is an underrated part of his game, on top of his positioning, on top of his just overall feel for the match. He's not going to make like a top class save, maybe perhaps like a Zoulakis where, his top end ability is higher than Vlachodimos, but strategically you would opt for a keeper that's a little bit more consistent for a little bit less brilliant. As you get further back on the pitch, whether it's defenders, of course, center backs, and then goalkeeper, you would rather have a steady Eddie accountant than, like a adrenaline junkie, like Formula One driver, which would you want up top. So, the steadiness and the judgment and the understanding of the match as a whole is something that Odysseas, I think, just brings a little bit more of to the table to kind of build off what you're saying. I fear more from a mentality standpoint. That's what our strong suit was over the last, 15, 20 years, was we may not be as talented, but through tactics and just game management and emotional regulation throughout the match, we're going to outflank you. We're going to, outmaneuver you. And, we're missing that weapon, that tool in our toolbox a little bit. I think there's obviously, like, there's on Twitter, you can be like, yeah, like they don't have that dog in them or whatever. It's more just like, there isn't this punch. We don't have as much sting. We're like a scorpion with like our two wingers, the two claws, Sol and Carezas. But we don't have our stinger. And that's our stinger was our mentality, our ability to dig our heels in, bend but don't break, withstand so much uncomfortable, discomforting pressure, and then being able to be wise as doves going forward and finding opportunities with the limited chances that you're going to get. And it worked for him. And obviously we've shifted away from that, where we actually do have more talent now, but we've also kind of like lost our stinger a little bit, lost our ability to be able to just mentally dominate a match, or be able to just be like, all right, I'm bobbing with these punches. I'm not nervous at all. Like, I'm rolling with this. And I'm inviting this pressure strategically and watch me maneuver out of it. We're not seeing a little bit of that like edge to that we need to see, and that ability to really just not let the moment get to you. So this is a nice window to see how they bounce back. Kind of like Gianni said in Eurobasket. It's like, we didn't like how the Turkey match went in the semifinal, but we always bounce back. We didn't like how that loss against Bosnia happened in the group stage. And we bounced back immediately, went on a nice little cup run. So let's see if these boys can bounce back and follow suit. Giannis set the tone.
It's so funny that we're talking about, everyone's calling for the new younger generation right away. And yeah, we've got some great 17, 18-year-olds, and they did really well in the nations against Scotland in the friendlies. But now we seem to see some people calling back for, okay, we need that sting that you just mentioned. We need that maturity. So calling for these older guys, right? The Vlachodimos is to come back. The Bakasetas is to come back. And you know who's pulling the strings for league leaders Ajax right now, having in the form of his life? Is Petros Mandalos, who's looking incredible in the league right now. I would not be surprised if he plays a big part in these upcoming games, because he's looked like a new version of himself.
I love it. I know I love a player being able to, catch some motion and some momentum, but the streets are going to hate you for bringing him up.
Oh, I know.
That's a name that you don't say on the block. But no, I mean, he's kind of a utility player, someone that you can trust for the most part off the bench. And I mean, he's been a part of a lot of moments on the rise to where we are now. Because 2 or 3 years ago, we were looking at a spot like we're in right now, obviously without the 3-0 loss to Denmark.
Yeah,
being like, damn, I'd kill for this. So we're here now. We've kind of fallen upwards, and now it's time to take that next step. Maybe we don't fall this time. Maybe we put 2 hands down, and then maybe it's 1 hand down the next time, and then we start walking again. So this is like I said, acid test. Gut check test in September was for the team and the players. October is about Jova. And from a mental standpoint and emotional standpoint about the players, of course, trying to get back into a rhythm. But emphasis on Jova. That seat starting to get a little...
Just a tick.
Not yet. I'm like, hand is on the dial. Haven't turned it yet. Haven't turned up the temperature.
That's a good point. If Greece were to miss out on the World Cup, I can't believe you just asked me that at 9:49 at night before my bedtime. Would you want? Is there a scenario where you'd want him out, like finishing third and not even making the playoff? Because if you were to make a playoff, and let's say we get like in Italy,
make the playoff, obviously.
Yeah. But
what's the question then?
I'd want to keep him on. Let's say we make a playoff, just theoretically, worst case scenario, we make a playoff, we get a team like Italy, pot 1 team, and we don't make it for whatever reason, but we showed that we can be there amongst those teams. I'd want to keep him on for the Euro qualifiers 100%. The question is, if we were to, let's say, finish third to Denmark and Scotland, are you calling for his head at that point? Or are you saying, I still want to keep him on regardless?
It depends on how it happens. Yeah. I think it's really case by case. Some things aren't in your control. If it's a repeat of this window, then I'll be asking a lot of questions and start kind of teetering in that direction. Just to build off what you're saying a second ago, to like, if we, go through the playoffs, draw in Italy and don't go through, I would keep him, because the Euro qualifiers is much more forgiving than the World Cup qualifiers. Yeah. And all you have to do is kind of like do enough from a quality standpoint to get through. And that's to show you how dreadful things have been the last, decade, because we couldn't do that
too. Yeah.
I'll leave it at that. Welcome back. Hopefully we get some good news tomorrow, and hopefully we have some time after this window to do a little bit of analysis as well.
Absolutely.
If we lose though, and I'm busy, you motherfuckers aren't seeing me. So, it is what it is. We'll see how it goes. It's schedule. Depends on the schedule. I will definitely do my best to make it happen. But man, I mean,
remember we were supposed to do something after the Denmark game in Piraeus, and it was the Tuesday. You were in Greece. I was still in Chicago. I'm not even going to text you, because I know you don't want anything to do with them right now.
Man, well, hey, it can be water under the bridge if they do the job this window. So we'll see. Exactly. We will see. All right, my friend. Take care. Tell the missus I say hi, and nazisete. And I will see you on the other side.
Thank you, my friend. All right. Take care.